Jody. Jody's the other one, the North Spring Station.
The time for convening has arrived, so we'll start this evening's meeting. We'll start with our work session. And the first item is the PCID branding. Ms. Hanlon, welcome.
Thank you, Mayor Paul. And good evening, Council. Thank you so much for having me here tonight. My name is Ann Hanlon. I'm the Executive Director of the Perimeter Community Improvement Districts. And I wanted to take a little bit of time to give you an update on a branding initiative that we've been working on. We've been working with your staff and also the staff members at the City of Dunwoody and the City of Brookhaven. But I wanted to give you a little bit of a preview so that you can see what we're working on. So as a quick setup before I run through the slides, a little bit about how we arrived here. We've been paying attention a lot to leasing rates in Perimeter. I know Caroline with your economic development staff has been doing the same, and leasing rates are down in Perimeter. We've done a lot of public outreach. We did a big survey of all of our property owners and property managers a couple of months ago, and we've got construction fatigue, among other things. We're facing, as we all sat here in traffic tonight, I know you know that, two big problems that we're facing in the Perimeter market. Number one, construction fatigue from 285 at 400. That project, you know this, that project was supposed to be delivered in December 2019. So the tenants and the property owners, property managers have a lot of fatigue from that, and we're suffering because of it. Number two is COVID. Getting people back into the office after COVID has been a real challenge, especially in the Perimeter market. And so in discussing both of those things, our board of directors gave us as staff a direction that they wanted us to invest a little more heavily in marketing the area. So I wanted to also specify this is not marketing for the CID in and of itself. Nowhere on this are you going to see the word Community Improvement District, because we feel pretty strongly that this should be something that we're all sharing. We don't need to market ourselves. Most normal people don't care what the CID is. They don't know what it is. They don't care what it is. They don't need to. But that the market itself needs a boost, especially as we're competing with other markets, namely the Battery. We lost a couple of big tenants recently to the Battery area over in Cobb County and Midtown. A couple of things that we're doing really well on is law enforcement. The area is definitely thought to be a very safe area, safe and clean. So we've got a lot of positive things that we can talk about in addition to some of the things that may be a drag right now. So I just wanted to set up with that. What you're looking at is the new word mark, the new brand for the Perimeter market. This is still very much in draft form, so I want to get your feedback. We're doing the same thing with the other two cities and, of course, our own board of directors. One of the big things is we would like to drop central or center from the vernacular. If you've been in the area since the 80s or the 90s, a lot of people, especially in the real estate community, refer to this area as Central Perimeter or Perimeter Center. So this is a little bit of a fresh way of looking at it, to drop that and refer to it as just Perimeter, something nice and clean. Can I click through to the next slide, please? A little bit, I'm not going to go through all these. I'm happy to answer any of your specific questions. But these are the results of the survey that I was telling you about. These are some of the perceptions of the Perimeter market. Some of them are positive. Some of them are not so positive. So you'll see some questions on, is it easy to walk around the Perimeter District? Is it an affordable place to live? Is it a nice place to work? Does it have nice shopping destinations? So happy to answer any questions on these. But generally speaking, the walkability is scoring very low. People do not think it's a really, really easy place to walk around. They don't tend to stay after work, maybe with coworkers to go out or to go eat or to go shop. Some of the things, if you'll click to the next one, please. Actually, I'm sorry, if you'll go back. I'm having a hard time seeing that. But one of the things that we did score the highest on is the safety element. So safe and clean is definitely part of what I think people identify with perimeter. So if you'll go to the next one, this is just one of the word jumbles. You've seen these before. When we ask people to describe the perimeter area in 3 words, this really comes as no surprise. This is how probably everybody would describe the perimeter area. Traffic is one of the bigger ones. Busy and congested. Traffic and congested, those are not 2 things that we want people to associate with the perimeter market. And a lot of that is, of course, the construction fatigue, the traffic fatigue that we're all seeing. But some of the better things that are coming forward: clean, convenient, safe, shopping, beautiful. Okay, well, this is all the data that we've used to kind of arrive at the new branding. If you can go to the next one, please. Okay, so the district brand, you can click to the next one. This is it. This is the word mark that we showed you at the beginning. There's a lot, the marketing people tell me there's a lot in here. You can see the rounded curves kind of represent flowing traffic. There's not like sharp lines or anything. It's a very clean, fresh font. I think there's a question.
I think that the M looks like an N, so that's just...
Yeah, you're not the first person who said that, actually. We're going to take a look at that.
Okay.
Thank you. I'll point out, too, the color scheme is a little bit different. The perimeter's never really had its own logo or had its own brand, so we're kind of starting from scratch on the colors to use. It's hard to see on this screen, but it's a dark green with a lighter lime color green, something that looks a little more fresh. The background is supposed to be green, yes. Yeah, it's not showing up that well. But it is a darker green and a lighter green. And if we can click to the next one, please. So these are, again, this is all in draft form. And we're actually having a work session with city staff tomorrow. With your staff, we've also invited the CVBs, from all the 3 cities to participate. But these are some examples of, as we're doing social media, the social media campaign and branding, these are some of the messages that we'd like to get out there about the market, especially with the easy access. That's sort of geared toward the traffic and the congestion, obviously. The corporate playground is a nod to some of the newer, bigger developments that are coming online. So on the DeKalb County side of the district, we've got High Street that is scheduled to open in January with the first phase, and the redevelopment of the old Gold Kiss building at Campus 244, which will be a mixed-use development. And that's scheduled to open middle to late next year. So I'm running through these, but please, I'm happy to take any questions. We can click to the next one. Who will we be targeting, right? When we're reaching out with social media and marketing, multi-level marketing, we're really kind of want to get to everyone. The perception of the market, we feel the perception of the market needs to be addressed with all of these entities. So potential tenants would, of course, be probably number 1. Site selectors, brokers, making sure that brokers are marketing the perimeter area and working with all the economic development staff to make sure that they've got any data that we can share with them to get site selectors looking at the market. Current tenants in the market, we've lost a couple of big ones recently. We lost 2 to the Cumberland area. And I know Caroline and I are always listening out to others that are out looking. Pardon me? Enterprise was one of the big ones that we lost.
Enterprise.
Like Enterprise Rent-A-Car was one of the big ones that we lost. So with coming back to work too, and there's a lot of just the post-COVID consolidation of space. I think all markets are facing this right now, trying to make sure that you can retain tenants and not have them reduce their footprint or go somewhere else. Okay, let's go to the next one. So this is the tagline that we're thinking about. Again, open for conversation, is where it all works. So this is sort of a nod to the corporate background of perimeter because, it is mostly a corporate area, corporate destination, but also giving a nod to that it is going to be better soon after the construction is over. You know, at some point it is going to be better. The interchange will be back and functional, and it is going to all feel like it's working and flowing better. So this is sort of a nod to casting a positive light on the future. All right, we'll click to the next one, please. This is just some more of the colors actually show up a little bit better on this slide. You can see the green, the dark green, and the light green, and the blue and the pink. Again, this is just some more of the branding with that word perimeter and then the watermark of that P. All right, we can click to the next one. This is more with the colors.
So I had a question on this, Ann. Is that are these going to be, these color palettes, used interchangeably, or is one the primary, like the one on the far left is the one we've seen prior in the slides? Are these going to be used for different things?
So the idea is that they would all be used interchangeably. I think the feeling is that the one on the far left with the two greens is a little more corporate, a little more business-like. So probably with our commercial tenants, that would be something we would use in social media campaigns targeted towards the corporate community, where the other two are a little more playful, maybe with retail, as we're working with Perimeter Mall and High Street, and some of those retail and entertainment entities would use more of those other two color schemes.
Okay, thanks.
So if you click to the next one, please. Okay, this is a mock-up of a website. And again, we're working with your staff in our session tomorrow to kind of go through all this, because the idea is that this is, not meant to compete with what any of the cities or economic development staff or CVBs or anybody are doing, but this could kind of be a landing page for all of us, and that we would then link out to everyone from this site. Okay, we can click to the next one, please. So again, this is more that same color scheme on the website. Click to the next one, please. And so this kind of being another tagline, enjoying easy access to the best of Atlanta. And then the next one, please. We're getting towards the end here. So this is one we'll obviously be working closely with the CVBs and Perimeter Mall and all the retailers, so we can keep all of this updated with the hotels and the retail, restaurants, all of that. Just as a bit of a clearinghouse, so that we can direct people here if they're in the area and they want to see what the options are. Okay, next, please.
So I have a question, Ann. So is this going to be a totally new website?
Yes.
And then does it have hooks into the, Sandy Springs, Brookhaven, Dunwoody?
Yes. Yes, it does. Okay, if we can click through to the next one. And this actually is the page that would direct everyone out to the city websites or CVB websites or Chamber of Commerce websites, or all of the partners that are in the region. The idea is to have a platform so that we're all working on it together to try to cast a fresh light on what Perimeter is. We can click to the next one, please. Okay, this is going to be one of the elements of the website. This is one that I'm personally the most excited about. And this is with regard to 285-400 itself as a project. One of the things we've struggled with a lot of our property owners and a lot of our tenants is collateral materials on how to explain the interchange project. What's online now is a YouTube video from 2014 it's old, and the project has changed a lot since then, and it's very big. It's a very big project. It's very confusing, and so in the scope of work for our marketing firm is to create a visualization tool. It's a video, a fly-through video of what the new interchange is going to look like, with the exit ramps and something that you could have a QR code and just easily scan it or click on it on social media. So that's, again, it's not finished yet, but I wanted to make sure you knew that that's part of the scope of work that we're working on, because our property managers tell us that they do not have a quick and easy way to explain to people what's going on out there. We've got boards and we've got graphs and we can direct them to websites, but they just want something quick and easy that in 30 seconds they can show someone, this is what it's going to look like when it's finished. So hopefully that's what we'll have at the end of this process. Yeah. Thank you. Right now, we're sort of playing with the idea of having the narrator be a fictitious traffic reporter. A voiceover of a fictitious traffic reporter, so it kind of could say, we're flying above the interchange, and we see this and we see that, to kind of make it real for people, to help people understand what it's going to look like. So we can go to the next slide. So again, this is all targeted to push out on social media. Our plan is that the social media campaign would hopefully start by December. We want to get ahead. We feel like that the market is in a place where we need to do a positive push before the interchange is complete. So the interchange should, according to what DOT is telling us, the interchange should be significantly complete sometime next year. We don't feel like we can wait until then. We need to get some sort of positive push out prior to then, which is why we'd like to launch this on social media at some point prior to that. Okay, we can click through. I'm almost finished with the slides. Yeah, so this is that timeline. This is kind of our goal, and we're also trying to thread the needle, because on the DeKalb side of the CID, we've got, at some point, again, in mid-2024, there's going to be a lot happening. There's going to be Campus 244 will be opening. High Street will be opening. At some point, the interchange will be significantly complete. And so we're trying to sort of launch this in a window of time prior to those things so that we can get a positive push out there for the market, a bit of a shot in the arm for it. All right, we can click through to the next one. Yeah, this is a lot that you probably have a hard time seeing. But these are a lot of the technical details that we're going to be working through with your staff and the staff from the other two cities on things like search engine optimization and making sure that we can keep track of where, when people land on our page or land on our social media, where they're going to, whether maybe it's to the Sandy Springs Economic Development site or the Dunwoody site or the state of Georgia or wherever. So this is some of the technical back end of that we're working through. And if you click to the next one, please.
And is there, on the website, will people be able to, is there ask a question so they could send, a form pop up to send an email to someone to answer?
Yes.
And that'll be part of this too?
Yes, that'll definitely be part of that. We even have that on our current website now. Okay, if we can go to the next slide, please. That's the end one, right? Yeah. Okay. Thank you. So I would love your feedback and your thoughts on it. This is still a work in progress, but I think that the main message that I wanted you to hear was that, our board recognizes that we're facing headwinds in the office market, and it's something we want to be aware of. We want to all be talking about together with the chambers and the CVBs and the cities, because we're watching kind of what's happening in other markets. We're watching what's happening to our own buildings. On the DeKalb side of the CID, one of the buildings at Ravinia just changed hands. Ravinia 3, if you're familiar with that one. It changed hands in a 12-month period of time at a 50% reduction, what it was acquired for. So it was acquired, and 12 months later was sold for 50% of what they bought it for. So, I think we're facing some serious headwinds, and this is certainly not going to be the answer to it, but I think it's going to help all of us that are working to help promote the area. It's going to help us give something tangible that we can kind of point people to, that it's a good, clean, safe area that's got a lot of energy coming to it.
Thanks, Ann. A couple of things. First of all, the battery is the new shiny object in the region. And so that's where everybody wants to be. And I think you're right. There is no real excitement around the perimeter market today. We've been a hot market for a long time. And there's nothing that I can say really fires the imagination about it. And I hate to pour water on the parade, but I don't think where it all works is going to fire anybody's imagination. I think it's a little dull, a little boring, doesn't excite me. If I were picking, of all the things you showed, if I was picking one, I would say accessing the best of Atlanta. I mean, that's kind of, at least I've got a little bit of excitement, something that gets my adrenaline flowing with, trying to get the best of. But I'm just not fired up by, where it all works. It's just kind of, I'm not sure we're injecting a lot of energy into the image with that. I think the point that you're trying to make is 100%. We've got to get some excitement, to re-energize that district. I mean, it's vital not only to the economic well-being of Sandy Springs, but Dunwoody and Brookhaven, but to the entire metro Atlanta region. We bring people in from Gwinnett and Cobb and north of here and south of here. This is the great thing about the perimeter, is where it's easy for everybody to meet. You can get there. Yes, we've all got construction fatigue, and we'll talk a little bit later about the absence of bridges that we have here that's only complicating that. But I just don't think you're not getting me excited about it. Let me just say that. I know you've got a timeline, but my years in marketing, I'd much rather get it right than get it right than move it out too quickly. You're going to spend a lot of money on this. You already have. It's clear. You've hired consultants. There's all this design work, but I'd try and ask them one more time for a little bit more excitement.
No, I appreciate that feedback, because when we do want to get it right, and we definitely are facing headwinds, and we do want to create excitement. That's like precisely what we want to create. And I think that, we all agree on that, but I appreciate the feedback on what is actually going to get people excited.
Mayor Paul?
Mr. Paulson.
If I may, thank you very much. I applaud the effort. A couple of observations. There are forces way beyond your control and way beyond what some fancy, appealing marketplace is going to, or market effort is going to do. One of the questions I have is, you talk about people who are leaving the perimeter market to go somewhere else. Is that, number one, why'd they leave? And number two, if you think about buildings that were 95% occupied and are now 50% occupied, did those 45% of those people in those companies, did they go somewhere else, or they just aren't going to work anymore? So I want to make sure my suggestion is you're not focusing on the two that left, when the bigger problem is getting people interested in coming back here. So that's just an observation. I'd like to know why they left.
Well, I know some more that are thinking about leaving.
Oh, I'm sure there are.
And it's just about the construction. They're tired of dealing with the construction, and their employees are grumbling and griping. Of course, where they want to go, it's not much better.
Some of them want to go. Where can you go in Atlanta and anywhere in the northern arc where it's not a problem? And one slogan I first thought about was, "The pain is almost over." That's not even build a campaign on it, but in truth, the pain is almost over, and that's sweet. The other part of this is, there are a lot of things at Perimeter that people don't know about. And you had one slide that started talking about how many restaurants and stuff, but a more extensive facts page might be good, because there are a lot of good things at Perimeter Mall, that's the mall, the whole Perimeter area, that are appealing. And one of the things I'm struck by was, at one point someone told me the number of people that came to the Perimeter area every day to either shop or work, and the numbers are staggering. Even now, it's a huge population that comes in to that area. So anyway, number one, let's not overreact to companies leaving unless we know the reason why they're leaving. Number two, it's almost over isn't maybe the best slogan, but in truth, the light at the end of the tunnel is available. And then the third is there's more to Perimeter Mall that actually attracted us when we first moved here, and that's a lot of it's still there, whether it's restaurants, shops, convenience, and focus on that. To me, these are the assets of the area. So, just a thought.
Anybody else? Ms. Rochelle.
Thank you for the presentation. I want to look over this, and then I'm going to email you some ideas. But one thing that I would suggest is maybe defining the area of the perimeter, because I'm not sure that that's, you can see that. But I'm going to send you some thoughts.
That would be great.
But one of the challenges that the perimeter has, and you compare it to the Battery, which is the hot, new, shiny object, is there's an excitement there. People want to go and just hang out, whether they go to the ball game or not. In fact, a lot of the people who are there during baseball game nights never make it into the stadium. They're in the restaurants and other places. They're just there to be part of the ambiance. Somehow or the other, the CID has got to figure out how to, it does need freshening. We don't have a lot of exciting new restaurants that have come into that area in quite a while. There needs to be some focus on how do we make this place enticing. It's not where, you want to take it where, not where it all works, but where people want to work. You make that transition to where they want to work. And now suddenly you've got something that, right now, because CEOs can't get employees back in, that's their big concern. And you throw the traffic on top of it, and they're fighting an uphill battle. We've got to figure out what is it that will bring people so that instead of rolling up the streets at 6 o'clock at night and getting into the traffic, what is it that we can do that will make that area where they want to just come and hang out? And that's a focus that I haven't seen you address yet. So, just my observations.
Yeah, the word we keep hearing over and over is experience.
Yeah.
That it's experiential.
Right.
So I think that's exactly what you're saying.
So you got to focus on recruiting, not necessarily big companies. That's what fills up office spaces. I get it. But to fill up those office spaces and make those employees want to come back in, you've got to create some small companies, some restaurants, some shops, things that are exciting and different and new and that you can't get anywhere else. So I would strongly urge you to focus on that too.
One more thing.
Jody.
I was just also, people do like new and shiny and all that, and High Street's going to be a great addition to the perimeter area, and hopefully we as a city can work with you to help to get some of the new developers in. For instance, the Dick's Shopping Center, maybe that could be redeveloped. So a lot of it is, bringing in new development where people do get excited about coming to a new and shiny area, new restaurants, and as Mayor Paul said.
Yeah, I think the good news is that we're all collectively recognizing that we need to do something. I think that the Georgia City, Eden may be going, the City Managers Association is having their conference in the Dunn Perimeter area over the next month. And one of the panels is called 50 Years of Perimeter. And it sort of is occurring to all of us that, Perimeter Mall turned 50 last year. That Gold Kiss building turned 50 a couple of years ago. There's all these 50-year anniversaries that we keep hearing about. And so I think just collectively all recognizing that it's time. It's time for a refresh. Just that alone is really helpful. Because, you've got great staff, and all the economic developers are professionals, and the chambers and the CVBs. There's a good team of all the partners who want to work together. So I think just collectively recognizing that it's time is something.
Ms. Miller.
I think that, to me, this felt more corporate than creative. So to get a vibe, to get it sort of was, just paging through a binder somewhere.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure how to make that jump out and, and target all the things that mayor and council have said, but it's corporate.
Yeah, no, that's good feedback. Thank you.
Anybody else? Mr. Bauman.
Obviously, this is part and parcel of economic development. First of all, Ann, thank you. Is there any way maybe our staff or y'all can update us separately on all of the incentives that we control that might be available for retention and for new, and whether that needs a reset or maybe a 2024 and 25 special, or something that we need to do that within our policy control? Thank you, Kristen. You know my question. Go ahead. Take it.
Yes, Councilman, and that is a big focus for us right now. We are looking at our incentives, and we are actively working on that, so we'll be sure to share an update with you all on what we're doing on that front.
And we very much at the CID, we want to stay in our lane. Since we don't we don't do incentives, we don't do economic development, we don't technically do any of that. We'll be happy to work with the cities when y'all update those. I mean, I think right now we want to just sort of all collectively agree that we need to do something, and we need to cast a fresh vision for what it is, and then we would happily support whatever the city decides to do when you take an inventory of those things.
Well, I know Perimeter Point is teeing up for redevelopment. That'll help with the right kind of redevelopment. We'll be actively involved in that. So anything that we can do to help, I mean, we're as dependent upon that area economically from a tax-based perspective as any other part of the city. So anything we can do to be helpful to reignite the fire, we're ready to kick in and help. Ms. Hanlon, thank you for your time. Appreciate it. Thanks for coming and giving us an update. All right, we'll close the work session and move to regular order. I would like to call this meeting of the Sandy Springs City Council to order for Tuesday, October the 3rd, 2023. Will the city clerk please make the announcements and call the roll?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. First, I would like to remind those in attendance to please silence all cell phones and other electronic devices at this time. Individuals who would like to provide public comment at a city council meeting are required to complete and submit a public comment card in advance of the meeting. Public comment cards are available online at the chamber entrance. Those providing public comment may be allotted up to 3 minutes to speak on their single chosen topic. As I call roll, please confirm your attendance. Mayor Rusty Paul.
Present.
Councilmember John Paulson. Here. Councilmember Melody Kelly. Present. Councilmember Melissa Mueller.
Here.
Councilmember Jody Rochelle. Here. Councilmember Tibby DiGiulio. Councilmember Andy Bauman. Here.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam Clerk, have we received any public comment cards?
Yes, we received 3 this evening, and they're all in-house.
Okay.
The first is Mary Ford, who will be followed by Susan Major.
Ms. Ford, welcome.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. My name is Mary Ford. I am in District 5, 5115 Timber Trail, South Northeast in Sandy Springs. I'm here tonight to share my personal opinion as well as some of those of the High Point Civic Association, where I currently serve as president. First, I want to say that we appreciate all the effort that City Council and staff put into reviewing our development code to ensure that it is meeting the growth goals of our city, to ensure that we're continuing to evolve and serve our citizens better. We have met with staff to better understand some of the proposed development code changes. And to be fair, most of our questions were related to those changes about gas stations. We do understand that one of the drivers of the gas station-related changes is to provide additional incentive, which will ultimately lead to improved appearance of gas stations along Roswell Road. and for sure there is opportunity for improvement there. However, there is one of the changes that concerns us, and preliminary discussion with our board indicates that we don't support the removal of the requirement of half-mile spacing. We are concerned about this for two reasons. One is that even with the one-to-one swap requirement that is in place, we're concerned that this could lead to increased density of stations in the area from City Springs down to the southern border of the city, also the southern border of our district, where today there are already 9 stations. And then with that increased density would also lead to additional traffic. Rather, we ask that the council consider additional incentives or more time for the existing requirements to be effective before taking the more drastic measure of removing the half-mile spacing requirement for gas stations. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, Ms. Ford.
Susan Major, who's followed by Bill Gannon.
Ms. Major, welcome.
Thank you. My name is Susan Major, and I'm a Sandy Springs resident for 32 years. I live at 5350 Timber Trail, a different timber trail than Mary Ford, and it's also in District 5, Tibby's district. Tibby actually encouraged me to come speak tonight, and this is my personal public comment. Please don't eliminate the half-mile spacing requirement. Councilman Paulson told me the other night at the open house that we have 27 gas stations in Sandy Springs. I've since learned 18 of these are on Roswell Road, and Roswell Road between City of Atlanta and North River Tavern is 10.7 miles. So we have 18 stations in 10.7 miles, which comes out to a gas station for every 0.6 miles if they were spaced properly. We also have, it is my understanding, 60 automotive uses, and that does include the 18 gas stations on Roswell Road. Definitely an overabundance. And if we space those out, that would be an automotive use or gas station every 0.18 miles. So automotive uses and gas stations are everywhere. There are also more gas stations sitting on our border. For example, on the City of Atlanta line, we have a Shell station. Mount Perrin Road Country Store has 4 fuel pumps, City of Atlanta. Brookhaven Costco has 18 pumps. And there's more in the on Ashford Dunwoody in the perimeter area on the borders. And there's probably more in the Panhandle and Powers Ferry landing area, more border gas stations that aren't in Sandy Springs but could probably affect us. Delving into this a little deeper, we have 5 gas stations within City Springs, 6 within the half mile of I-285 and Roswell Road, and the 9 mentioned previously down on the south end. I'm saying all this because we don't need or want a new large-scale racetrack gas station at Roswell Road and Carpenter Drive in the heart of our city. It's a prime spot, one of our most visible gateways. It would not help beautify Roswell Road. It would not enhance City Springs. It would not encourage walkability in our downtown. And it would not add anything to our brand or Sandy Springs identity. The added traffic would be a nightmare.
Ms. Major, I need you to wrap it up.
Okay. Mayor, I loved when you once said, and you probably said it more than once, that we can afford to wait for what we want. And I think that the situation here calls for that. Let's get it right. Thank you.
Thank you. I hate it when somebody quotes me my words back. Mr. Gannon.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Bill Gannon. I live at 505 Taunton Way. Is that better? 505 Taunton Way, I also live in the same district as the two previous speakers. Regarding gas stations, we've been talking about this since I was much younger when we started the city. In fact, I remember I took some information from a young lady who was working on our staff. She's now our city manager. Hello, Eden. And we haven't really changed much. I want to keep the gas station codes just the way they are. I'll try not to repeat, what the two ladies said, but I got a full tank of gas for $3.09 over on Chambly Dunwoody by the bowling alley yesterday. If we're going to get new, bigger stations on Roswell Road, we all know you don't want to get gas on Roswell Road unless you have to, because it costs more on Roswell Road than anywhere else. So it's not an economic justification. Some of you on this council fought to get money for the fountains across the street on the east side, correct? It's the ambiance going south down to 285. And why do you want to pay money for fountains and then put up bigger gas stations? I mean, that's a judgment call on y'all's part. But I would be against it for all the other reasons that have come up there. It's kind of like Groundhog Day. I thought we covered this about a year ago. Every time we get a consultant, you go back to the initial ones, and they never say put up a gas station, on these properties. I know we have some problems in and around Cliftwood. I have friends that I used to go to high school with, but they're all gone now. I have some time, but I'll give it back to you all. Thank you for your attention.
Thanks, Mr. Gannon. Any others? All right, we'll close the public hearing. Thank you for your input. Is there a motion to approve the meeting agenda? Mr. DiGiulio. We have a motion by Mr. DiGiulio. Is there a second? Been moved by Mr. DiGiulio, seconded by Mr. Paulson, that we approve the meeting agenda. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. The question's on the approval of the meeting agenda. All in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The item is approved. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda? Ms. Rochelle. Ms. Rochelle moves approval of the consent agenda. Is there a second?
Second.
Been moved by Ms. Rochelle, seconded by Ms. Mueller, that we approve the consent agenda. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. The question's on approval of the meeting agenda. All in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The meeting agenda is approved. Moving to new business, the clerk will please read the first item.
Agenda item number 2023-278, consideration of an agreement with ARC for North Springs MARTA Station TOD and Peachtree Dunwoody Road Corridor Study, presented by Public Works Director Marty Martin.
Mr. Martin.
Mayor and Council, good evening. Tonight I bring to you a recommendation to enter into a grant agreement with the Atlanta Regional Commission to accept federal funding for the North Springs MARTA Station Transit-Oriented Development Plan and the Peachtree Dunwoody Road Corridor Study as a part of the 2023 Livable Centers Initiative Grant Program. This most recent round of solicitations from the Atlanta Regional Commission for Livable Centers Initiative grants closed in March of this year. As a part of that round of solicitations, the city submitted an application for a tactical study application in February for Peachtree Dunwoody Road Corridor Study, at that time estimated at $175,000 in federal funds, $175,000 total, $140,000 in federal dollars, and $35,000 local funds. Upon review of our request, and at the recommendation of the Atlanta Regional Commission, ARC asked that we expand the scope of that study to include a transit-oriented development study as a part of this planning effort, focused on the North Springs MARTA Station, along that same Peachtree Dunwoody corridor we're talking about. In June of this year, ARC awarded to the city $250,000 grant, consisting of $200,000 in federal funds, plus the commensurate $50,000 in local funding match for the development of the North Springs MARTA Station TOD and Peachtree Dunwoody Road Corridor Study. The particular stretch we're talking about is Peachtree Dunwoody Road from Abernathy Road to Spalding Drive, approximately 1.75 miles. A significant north-south connector street with a variety of uses, land uses, as you're well aware, to include multifamily residential, single-family, commercial, and, of course, in the heart of it all there, the North Springs MARTA station. The purpose of this study would be to identify the appropriate cross-sections that facilitate future mobility, bike, ped, vehicular, etc., for the strategy along this stretch of Peachtree-Dunwoody Road, as well as incorporate planning and placemaking that embrace the North Springs MARTA station and better address its potential, especially as you consider a couple of significant planning factors we have in front of us. One, the inclusion of or the implementation of bus rapid transit, which from North Springs MARTA station reaching north, this will become the hub for connection from bus rapid transit to heavy rail MARTA here within the area. And as well, our future plans and opportunities for development of the extension of the Georgia 400 path, which currently we have plans that take us from Atlanta city limits well up to Mount Vernon Highway as a part of extensions of those paths along Peachtree-Dunwoody Road. Importantly, this planning study as well gives us a plan for the future and next potential steps with that Georgia 400 path as we look to extensions in through and beyond the city. So with that, tonight staff recommends council acceptance of this ARC planning grant, Livable Cities Centers Initiative Study, for both TOD and Peachtree-Dunwoody Road Corridor Study.
Okay, you've heard the report of the Public Works Director. What's the desire of council?
Mayor Powell.
Ms. Rochelle.
I move that we approve agenda item 2023-278 in agreement with ARC for North Springs MARTA Station, TOD, and Peachtree-Dunwoody Road Corridor Study.
You have a motion by Ms. Rochelle. Do I hear a second? Been moved by Ms. Rochelle, seconded by Mr. DiGiulio, that we approve agenda item 2023-278 in agreement with the ARC for North Springs MARTA Station, TOD, and Peachtree-Dunwoody Road Corridor Study. Any discussion? Ms. Rochelle.
Thanks, Marty. How long is the study going to take? And are we working with PCID and others that are also studying the same area?
So to answer the second part of your question first, absolutely on the second part, working with PCID, et cetera. So it's with their coordination that we've embraced this broader Livable Centers Initiative study. Kristen, any further to coordination piece that you might be able to add?
And the rapid bus, that's the service, that's on 400, right?
Yes, ma'am. So that's the BRT service envisioned with the expansion of express lanes northward from the North Springs MARTA station. As you're familiar, we now have two bridges under reconstruction in the city of Sandy Springs, both at Pitts Road and Roberts Drive overpasses to accommodate that future Georgia 400 express lane implementation.
And I think Kristen said in the 9 months that we're doing the study, we're going to have,
for the study.
and we're going to have a lot of input from the residents.
We envision public information, open houses, stakeholder sharing as a part of this process. It's important to the process.
Thank you.
Mr. DiGiulio.
Marty, would you go over again the...
Mr. DiGiulio, will you pull your microphone up, please?
Oh, I'm sorry. As loud as I talk, I thought everybody could hear me. Marty, would you go over again the boundaries on that this study is going to encompass?
Peachtree-Dunwoody Road,
right,
from Abernathy Road to Spalding Drive, a little over 1.75 miles there.
Right. I was just wondering why it's not going further south, because one of the real holdups on Peachtree-Dunwoody Road is when you get south of Hammond Drive down to like, I guess it's not Glen Ridge, it's Johnson's Ferry, where you go through under the bridge at 285 there, and you have the construction of that bridge, and you get into the hospital zone. Why aren't we including that area in this study?
Now, I'm truly going to defer to our senior-most planner here on the staff. And it has to do a lot, Kristen, and spin me backward, but with the idea of, with Livable Centers Initiative of placemaking and the focus on a place, and that 1 3/4 mile stretch of Peachtree Dunwoody Road as the focus for this particular study, with other LCIs that might complement that. Kristen, with that.
Sure. And it ties together those two MARTA stations as well, so from Sandy Springs Station up to the North Springs Station. Speaking on the other sections of Peachtree Dunwoody Road, they were all included in previous studies. And, we have the Perimeter Center LCI, which is what this is building off of. In addition to that, if you recall, a couple years ago, we did that more detailed study in the medical district to look at the safety and traffic operations around the medical district. So we have quite a few recommendations from that previous effort that were folded into T-SPLOST.
Did we implement any of the recommendations that came out of these other studies? Seems like we're doing a lot of studies, but not a whole lot of implementation.
Absolutely. So the project that Marty just referred to, where we have the 400 trail coming up into the perimeter at 285, that all came from a planning study. Then from there to connect with the side path all the way up to the Sandy Springs MARTA station also came out of the plan, and it currently is one section is out for design currently all the way up to Hammond Drive, and then that second section is part of the T-SPLOST design. So those are all projects. Separately on our transportation group, we are doing some small signal upgrades around the medical district, and those will be forthcoming. So that helps.
Mr. Paulson.
Thank you, Marty. Thank you, Kristen. So a question for you. We're talking about reimagining MARTA property. Is MARTA involved with this discussion? Because I'm sure they have their own thoughts on what they want to do with their property.
Absolutely.
Have you looped them in?
Yes. They're one of
Can
our
you tell us-
major stakeholders for that.
What do they want to do, or do you know yet?
Well, that's what we'll be discussing. So
Okay.
they already have TOD guidelines, for communities and for around all of their rail stations. So really it's an effort, and we hadn't really mentioned it, but we collaboratively between Public Works and Community Development will be working hand in hand, especially related to our previous comprehensive planning and next 10 and visioning for this area. So
And what MARTA's planning.
correct.
Yeah.
MARTA does have they do have a plan. It's fairly
Do they?
high density. They anticipate that everybody's that will be in that high dense area will all get on a MARTA train and go where they want to go. We have slightly different expectations of how many people will get on the train and how many will get on the road. So that's been a challenge, and this grant will help us sort through some of those things. Dr. Kelly.
What was my first question? I'm really just trying to be clear on exactly how this planning exercise differs from, perimeter, small area, MARTA. Those were TOD planning.
Well, we haven't really taken a direct TOD study for this North Springs station by itself. There have been previous efforts looking at Sandy Springs Station quite a few years ago. It was about 10, 15 years ago that was undertaken. So we do have a lot of previous plans that sort of thought we should do this, we should do that, but there's been a lot.
Would you say they're outdated on some level?
Yeah, you really do end up kind of having an opportunity to sort of refresh and rethink about how we're going to engage and work in this corridor. We know about existing, say, traffic operations issues and bottlenecks, for example, at Perimeter Center West, Abernathy, and Peachtree Downey Road, where they all come together there, right there at Mount Vernon. And so we need to look at that. We need to look at the corridor. The city previously had improved the intersection down at Spalding and Peachtree Downey Road. But between that is a really dynamic and interesting community of all different types of housing. We have this enormous asset on both ends of the North Springs MARTA station as well as the Sandy Springs MARTA station. And it's how does this all work together and become a dynamic place. I think there's just a great opportunity here for our city with our citizens and the community to really think about how we can improve it from a transportation standpoint, because there really are some facilities lacking on that corridor, but also bring together the whole community and make it place, as talked about previously, talking about the perimeter branding, a place that people want to be and come to and stay.
And I assume you all have already thought about the potential impact of our development code exercise, or what may or may not be approved in December.
Yes, that's why we have a kind of co-project managers, one in community development and public works, to kind of guide this whole effort forward.
Okay. Thank you.
Anybody else? All right. We'll close the debate and call the question. The question's on agenda item 2023-278, approving an agreement with ARC for the North Springs MARTA Station TOD and Peachtree Dunwoody Road Corridor Study. All in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The item is approved. The clerk will please read the next item.
Agenda item number 2023-279. This is consideration of a resolution to authorize city staff to apply for the Georgia Outdoor Stewardship Program grant to partially fund construction in Trail Segment 2E, presented by Sustainability Manager Catherine Mercier-Baggett.
Ms. Mercier-Baggett.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. So this grant is not new for you, but I will give a little summary still. This is a grant that is managed by the Georgia Department of Natural Resources, and it is to fund parks and trails projects, and it comes from a sales tax on sporting goods. The amounts that are granted are between $500,000 and $3 million, and the local applicant must match at least 25% of the budget. You may recall that we did receive $3 million a few years ago for Trail 2A. The Segment 2E that we are applying for is more or less a mile and a half. It picks up where Trail 2A stops, which is at Cimarron Parkway and Roswell Road. Then it will take Roswell Road on the north. And if you're following on the map, it's the magenta outline on the right side of the map. So it will go north on Roswell Road all the way to the Fulton County Annex. And then we'll run parallel to Powers Branch, which is at the rear of the annex, through the apartment complex, and then it will follow the Georgia Power transmission line and the Fulton County sewer easement all the way to Colquitt, then go north for a short segment to reach Pitts Road Bridge. So this project is obviously for the trail, but it will also include some stream bank repair that is much needed on Powers Branch inside the Georgia Power corridor. This project leverages also two other projects, the Fulton Annex pedestrian crossing that is handled by Public Works, and also the rebuild of Pitts Road Bridge, which is part of the 400 project. Now, I know this is everybody's favorite slide, the numbers. We're looking at a construction cost of $6.7 million. We are seeking the maximum grant of $3 million. The Conservancy is, again, generously contributing $30,000, which leaves a city match of $3,670,000. That total match is roughly 55% of the construction cost. We have about $3 million in capital project P0028 for trails, and also our 5-year CIP plan anticipates allocation for Trail 2E in fiscal year 2025. This application deadline is October 13th.
You've heard the report of the Sustainability Manager. What's the desire of council?
Mayor.
Mr. Paulson. Motion by Mr. Paulson. Is there a second? Motion by Mr. Paulson, seconded by Dr. Kelly, that we approve agenda item 2023-279, resolution authorizing the city staff to apply for the Georgia Outdoor Stewardship Program grant. Any discussion? Mr. Paulson.
So one of the things that happened with 2A was the Conservancy went out and got a lot of right-of-way donated. I don't know, have they started that initiative yet for this corridor? Do you know?
Yes, they are actually talking to the property owners right now so we can get letters of support for this
Okay.
grant.
Because that helped a lot with 2A.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you. Glad to hear it.
Anyone else? Mr. DiGiulio.
Can you go back one slide that shows the map?
Sure.
I believe you said this is 2E, which is the magenta. It looks to me like the magenta area goes and it just stops dead end on, I guess that's Colquitt. I'm having trouble seeing it because the print is so small. Is that correct? It just stops there? Or does it go someplace else?
So this is taken from the Trail Master Plan. What we are proposing for the scope of this grant is to take Colquitt north to Pitts, and then the Pitts Bridge will have some pedestrian and bicycle facilities. Unfortunately, once on the other side of 400, the infrastructure is not there yet. So we're not looking at a complete loop as of now.
Okay, so it's going to go to Colquitt, and I guess then that gray trail is one of the next sections or something?
Yes, I believe that is part of...
Okay, because that one doesn't show a number on it, and so I wasn't sure where it was going. Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. The question is on agenda item 2023-279, a resolution authorizing the city staff to apply for the Georgia Outdoor Stewardship Program grant to partially fund Trail Segment E. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The item is approved. The clerk will please read the next item.
Agenda item number 2023-280. This is consideration of a resolution to approve a contract award to Atkins North America, Inc. for design and other services related to the Morgan Falls Athletic Complex Improvements Project, and to authorize the city manager to execute the contract. Presented by Recreation and Parks Director Mike Perry.
Mr. Perry.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. In 2021, the city engaged Atkins North America to work with staff and representatives of the Sandy Springs Youth Sports Association to produce a master plan for the Morgan Falls Athletic Complex. This complex serves as the hub of our youth sports for many in the Sandy Springs community. The first phase of design and development was funded in the previous budget cycle and is near completion now. The item before you tonight is to continue implementation of the Parks Master Plan through this Phase 2 design contract award. Phase 2 design elements to include a pre-manufactured 6,000 square foot metal batting pitching cage structure, bullpens on 6 of the baseball diamonds, addressing of a significant erosion concern at field number 3, retaining walls at several of the fields, and water bottle filling stations throughout the park. Staff recommends Atkins America to begin the next phase of development by producing final design development, construction documents, permitting coordination, bid assistance, and finally contract and construction management if construction dollars are allocated in a future funding cycle. These services and their associated fees are broken down into task orders with a not to exceed total amount of $222,500. There are adequate funds available in the Capital Project Fund P-2216 to fund the design contract. The estimated construction cost is $1.5 million. Funding in the amount of $1.5 million is available in the Capital Fund account.
You've heard the report of the Director of Recreation and Parks. What's the desire of council?
Mayor Paul,
Dr. Kelly.
I move approval of agenda item 2023-280, approval of a contract award to Atkins North America for design and other services related to the Morgan Falls Athletic Complex Improvements Project, and to authorize the city manager to execute the contract.
We have a motion by Dr. Kelly. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Been moved by Dr. Kelly, seconded by Mr. Paulson, that we approve agenda item 2023-280, a resolution approving a contract award to Atkins North America for design and other services related to the Morgan Falls Athletic Complex. Any discussion?
I have a question.
Dr. Kelly.
A couple of questions. Thank you. The $1.5 million that you mentioned, does that include this 200 or this contract award, or is that?
It does.
It does. Okay, it does. Thank you. How many phases are there in the master plan for the athletic complex?
That completely is up to mayor and council. We're working off a master document, a master plan that called for in excess of $10 million.
Oh, okay.
So we have tried to chip away at it with your support as we're able to, and also based on elements that make sense and elements that are of highest priority to Sandy Springs Youth Sports. So future funding is totally up to council, and should there be a larger initiative, maybe there'll be a larger phase in the future, or subsequently it could also be a smaller one.
Okay. So the master plan is more of an internal document that sort of outlines.
It's a public document. It's a plan that was approved by this council.
Okay. Is it online? Is it searchable? Or it may be. I just haven't looked.
I would think it is.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Paulson and Ms. Rochelle.
Thank you. Thank you, Michael. So where's the batting cage building actually going on the site?
It's behind the concession building. If you know where the concession building
So I'm looking
is.
at 3 and 4, the rectangle back behind 3 and 4.
Let me put my eyes on, sir. I'm sorry.
The green rectangle to the left of the concession stand.
Let me get my bearing here. Yes, sir. It's the. You can see it. You can see it on there. It's I don't guess we have a pointer. Do we have a pointer?
So, but it's between 3 and 4 on the left-hand side.
Yes.
That rectangle
Yes.
has the stripes in it.
Yes.
That's where it's going?
That's
Okay.
correct.
Yeah, there's enough room back there for that.
Yes,
I
sir.
think, yeah. Thank you.
And I do have John Boudreau. If there are any really technical questions about size or some of the dimensions, we can probably get that for you. But John with Atkins is here should we need him.
Ms. Rochelle.
So I found out this morning that the high schools are considering making pickleball a varsity sport. And so is there any room to add pickleball courts over here?
Not within this plan, no, ma'am.
Not within this plan, but is there space if we wanted to sort of readjust
Yes, ma'am.
the plan?
Yes, ma'am, of course.
Okay, I'd love to look into that.
Okay.
Thanks.
Mr. Baumann.
Thank you, Mayor. Michael, thank you. This is really important. First of all, I think as it relates to funding, if I recall, our 5-year plan actually includes further phasing of this. Or is this the last block of money? Tony, do you know if we have money in our 5-year CIP for Morgan Falls Park, or did this end it? I don't think this ended it, but we'll get back to that. Real excited for this. Is there currently, or do you think it would be too difficult to create some branding for the park without spending a lot of money? Publicity. I'm real excited about, I think the community is having met with folks many times, stay in contact. What we're doing is really significant for this park and for families all over Sandy Springs, particularly on the northern part of the city, which has been an area of focus. So, I hope next year when baseball opens up, we see there's lighting, that we see pole banners and smiling faces, and like to encourage some sort of branding for this entire project. To Councilwoman Dr. Kelly's point, I think it is online, but so that we get some benefit and positive feeling for the work that's being done. I want to make sure people know about it.
Fair enough. Yes, sir.
And I also don't know if beyond Sandy Springs Youth Sport, if there is the equivalent of a Friends of, like we have a Friends of Sandy Springs Library, if there is if there could be an effort on the private side. I really don't want to compare to Chastain, but I mentioned it because they're going through a very, very significant capital campaign. They actually fund pretty much most, not all, but most of the improvements there through private donations, but different situation. If, in fact, there wouldn't be some organized effort against which the city could dollar match contributions and maybe create some accelerant to get the additional phases done, because there's some big ones here in terms of turf and the rest. If we can find space for pickleball, that's great. But right now, we're really pressed. We have parking constraints over there, and we have I don't want to lose ball fields. Having said that, I don't know if there is the ability in the pickleball world for when this space and times of year, pickleball's year-round activity, whether it's pickleball or other things, if maybe, even if they're not perfect, pristine pickleball courts, if there's not a way to utilize space during low periods, if there's an opportunity to do that, that would be great. I'd hate to see us lose fields because right now I think those are pretty fully utilized. So on all of those things, branding and particularly near-term signage and some excitement going into the baseball season, and then maybe, to the Councilwoman's point, some opportunities for utilization during low periods of usage that can be sort of overlaid on the existing uses without sort of zero-sum, losing some.
Any other discussion?
Councilman, we did budget $1.5 million for this project for FY24.
Right, so we're in FY24 now, right?
Yes.
Right, so, but does the CIP plan have any dollars anticipated in future during the next 4 or 5 budgeting years?
Yes. The CIP, 1.5
No, I understand, but we can't have it both ways. We referenced the CIP a lot. I mean, we did it for a reason. I guess the point to Dr. Kelly's question was there are envisioned dollars for this that through some process, thoughtful process, we've said to the community, hey, things go according to plan. We have said this is a priority to fund in addition to this current year in future years, as I understand it. And that's what I was asking is what does the 5-year plan say? But if you don't have it in front of you, you can get back to it later.
All right. Any further discussion?
I just wanted to say that I'm trying to search for it using our new search engine, and I can't pull it up. That doesn't mean it's not there. I'm just putting that out there. I can't pull up the master plan, but
We'll have a follow-up with communications, or we'll make sure we find a place to make sure that's an easy.
And there should literally be a physical display of this. It would be really nice if there was a physical display of this at the park.
Yes, it would.
I mean, a cabinet or something that, again, creates, I'll follow up with you guys, but creates excitement around this plan. I mean, what people can look forward to. I think this is something we should be shouting about.
Absolutely.
It's great.
Absolutely.
There is $3 million planned in 25 and $3 million in 26.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. The question's on agenda item 2023-280, a resolution approving a contract award to Atkins North America for design and other services related to Morgan Falls Athletic Complex. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The item is approved. The clerk will please read the next item.
Agenda item number 2023-281, consideration of approval of change order number 1 for Reedwick LLC for construction of the public safety fiber project. That's project number T9520, presented by Public Works Director Marty Martin.
Mr. Martin.
Mayor and Council, good evening. The City of Sandy Springs awarded a contract to Reedwick LLC in the amount of $135,390 for the construction of the public safety fiber project on March 24th of this year. In June, we issued the notice to proceed. Upon project mobilization, the contractor determined that the installation of fiber conduit could not be accomplished via the method bid as a part of the project directional boring. After attempting to bore through the material along the road shoulder there with 2 different boring machines in multiple locations. An alternative method of installing the conduit was proposed using rock drilling and jack and bore. This method and the equipment associated with it is more expensive and will require and will result in a cost change of the project, quoted by the project contractor in this case, $39,098. Staff reviewed the contractor proposal for the additional work, in this case rock drilling with jack and bore, and determined the cost to be reasonable for the level of effort and extent of the work required. There are sufficient funds within Project T9520 budget to enact this change order in the amount of $39,098 for a total project cost, when all considered, of $174,488.
You've heard the report of the Public Works Director. What's the desire of council?
Mayor Paul,
Mr. Paulson.
I move approval of agenda item 2023-281, approval of the change order number 1 for Reedwick LLC for construction of the public safety fiber project T9520.
Motion by Mr. Paulson. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Moved by Mr. Paulson, seconded by Ms. Rochelle, that we approve agenda item 2023-281, the change order for number 1 for Reedwick LLC for the construction of the public safety fiber project. Any discussion?
I had a question.
Dr. Kelly.
About it. The original contract, did we approve that, or was it sort of? 'Cause I know it's below
In that case,
threshold.
because the original amount was $135,390, was within the city manager's approval threshold.
Right.
So
The T9520, we budgeted 500,000 to that originally fiscal year 24, I think. I was just
believe
wondering.
that's the total amount for that budget pot. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so that goes, that pot is meant to be applied across multiple projects or specifically for this one?
I believe there are other projects. Say again. Say again. Just this single project.
Oh, so it has
we have sufficient.
500,000
Yes,
sort of.
Right.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. The question is on agenda item 2023-281, approval of the change order number 1 for Reedwick LLC for construction of the public safety fiber project. All in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The item is approved. The clerk will please read the next item.
Agenda item number 2023-282, consideration to approve a resolution authorizing contract award to Site Engineering, Inc. to construct the 7140 Hunters Branch Drive Stream Bank Stabilization Project, also presented by Public Works Director Marty Martin.
Mr. Martin.
Mayor and council, in this case, as a part of engineering studies in 2022, the city engaged an engineering firm to develop plans for stabilization and restoration of 28 linear feet of eroded stream bank at the address 7140 Hunters Branch Drive. The project aims to protect the existing infrastructure and stabilize that eroded stream bank in that location. Work to be included in this effort, regrade and stabilize that 28 linear feet of eroded stream bank, install slope armoring flexomat, gabion baskets, live stakes as a restoration method for vegetation, and riprap at the toe of the slope. On August 9th, the city issued an invitation to bid for this work and received one bid from Site Engineering in the amount of $161,447.33. The overall construction budget for the project at the time was $175,000. Upon review of the one response received, staff believes that the price tendered is fair and reasonable, and makes an award recommendation to Site Engineering, in this case, in the amount of $161,447.33. There are adequate funds within the Stormwater Capital Program to fund this project.
You've heard the report of the Public Works Director. What's the desire of council?
Mayor Paul.
Ms. Rochelle.
I move that we approve agenda item 2023-282, approve a resolution authorizing contract award to Site Engineering, Inc. to construct the 7140 Hunters Branch Drive Stream Bank Stabilization Project.
We have a motion by Ms. Rochelle. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Moved by Ms. Rochelle, seconded by Ms. Mueller, that we approve agenda item 2023-282, a resolution authorizing contract award to Site Engineering for 7140 Hunters Branch Stream Bank Stabilization. Any discussion?
I have a question.
Ms. Rochelle.
Is this the only house that's affected by this project? And
In this case, it's near the area of city interest, public interest. If you notice it within the graphic, it's also near the roadway here.
okay, thank you.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. The question's on agenda item 2023-282, approving a resolution authorizing contract award to Site Engineering to construct the 7140 Hunters Branch Stream Bank Stabilization Project. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The item is approved. The clerk will please read the next item.
Agenda item number 2023-283, consideration of acceptance of a purchase and sale agreement for property located at 424 Hammond Drive in Land Lot 71 of the 17th District of Fulton County, Georgia. That's tax parcel ID number 170071-0002-0634. This is associated with the Hammond Drive widening project, and that's project number S2193, presented by Public Works Director Marty Martin.
Mr. Martin.
Mayor and council, tonight we recommend that you accept a purchase and sale agreement for 424 Hammond Drive. As indicated in the title, this acquisition as a displacement directly is impacted by the Hammond Drive widening project, this being one of the properties identified for displacement as a part of that project. Property in question is a single-family residence built in the 1950s on approximately a half-acre lot. The purchase and sale agreement recommends that the city acquire the property for the purchase price of $510,000. As studied, the property does not appear to be a likely candidate for first responder lease-out program in this case. As an update to property acquisitions in association with this project, with this acquisition tonight, there are only 3 remaining parcels that are identified as displacements currently that are required for the implementation of the Hammond Drive widening project.
All right, thank you. You've heard the report of the Public Works Director. What's the desire of council?
Mayor Paul.
Ms. Mueller.
I move that we approve agenda item 2023-283 for the consideration and acceptance of a purchase and sale agreement for property located at 424 Hammond Drive in land lot 71 of the 17th District of Fulton County, Georgia, tax parcel number 17-0071-00002-063-4, associated with the Hammond Drive widening project, project number S2193.
We have a motion by Ms. Mueller. Is there a second? Been moved by Ms. Mueller, seconded by Mr. DiGiulio, that we approve agenda item 2023-383, acceptance of a purchase and sale agreement for property located at 424 Hammond Drive. Any discussion?
I have a question.
Ms. Mueller.
Marty, why is this not a candidate for first responder lease out? Just curious.
One of the factors evaluated in the lease out was the age and the condition of the facility and the amount of reinvestment the city may have to make into the facility to make it suitable for leasing out. Dave, and I think in this case we set a cap figure. Dave, if you could.
Okay.
15,000.
So there's criteria. I didn't know. There
Yes,
must be
ma'am.
criteria that have to be met for that to happen.
So in addition to the condition of the house, how much we would need to reinvest in order to make the property suitable for lease agreement.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. The question is on agenda item 2023-283, acceptance of a purchase and sale agreement for property located at 424 Hammond Drive. All in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The item is approved. Moving to reports, I got a few things to talk about. One, we're missing a bridge that once went over 285 along Mount Vernon Highway. We've had a lot of conversations since it happened last week, as late as tonight with the DOT commissioner. I want to say I can't thank Commissioner McMurray and his team for all the work they put in to try and figure out how to accelerate this bridge. And I know that's what everybody's concerned about. There are 3 challenges. One is supply chain, getting the beams for the new bridge. Repairing the old bridge is kind of out. It'd take about 6 months to fabricate the steel, and then to get it fixed, and then 3 months later they tear it down. And it costs $3 million. It doesn't make sense to try and repair the old bridge. The best option is to accelerate construction of the bridge that was already under construction to the east of the current bridge. So one is getting the beams fabricated. They were supposed to be fabricated and delivered after the first of the year. The Department of Transportation believes that they can get those beams accelerated, construction thereof, and get them out there, which will help. That's number one. Number 2 is the movement of water lines across that area. There's supposed to be 3 water lines that would move across the new bridge. To be able to accelerate that, they need to be able to put those water lines into a steel casing. They believe that the bridge would hold the extra weight on the one beam that is not damaged But the challenge is being able to get that casing across the bridge safely, because you can't put equipment on it, you can't move, you can't do a lot of work on it. So they're meeting with the Atlanta Water Shed to try and figure out how they can do that. Commissioners told me that if those obstacles can be overcome, then they believe they can accelerate the construction of the new bridge in time to be able to get it earlier, much earlier than the July date that they have been talking to us about last week, which created tremors across the whole community, including me when they found me in a fetal position under my desk when I heard that news. But even with the acceleration, the supply chain is going to, there's challenges to be able to do it. We're not going to be able to do it as fast as they did the 85 bridge, if you call it, burned a few years ago, because of getting the materials. Will require some weekend work, which then would require closing some additional lanes on 285 over the weekend, which complicates the traffic getting off on the surface streets. And so it's a very complex process. But I just want to tell you that Commissioner McMurray and his team couldn't have been more communicative. They've been very forthright with me and with our staff about the challenges ahead. They understand that this is a major arterial that carries a tremendous amount of traffic, and that has had to be shifted to other roads such as River Valley, Herds Ferry, and Abernathy, which are experiencing unprecedented levels of congestion as a result. So trying to move in that area around Riverwood High School, Holy Innocents, and Herds Ferry is going to be a challenge for a significant period of time. And I'm talking about months, not weeks. The best thing that can happen is like in the morning rush, trying to get students to those three schools adds a huge number of vehicles. I've urged on social media, and I'll do it again here, parents that can put your kids on school buses, please do it, because that will take a tremendous amount of pressure off of those roads. Secondly, if buses are not an option, carpool. Try and form multifamily carpools to take more than one family's kids to school in one trip, rather than every kid having their own, or every family having their kids all in one vehicle. If you can cooperate by getting these kids in the morning and in the afternoons consolidated into some carpools, that will help. But even that is not a solution. It's just helping. So you're going to have to, like I do. I mean, generally it's 3 miles from my house to this building. Generally I can make that in 7 to 10 minutes. It's now a 30-minute trip under the best of conditions. So we'll have to leave early. We'll have to anticipate long lines. And we're going to have to travel with patients in the seat next to us, because that's the only way we're going to get through this. Now, let me say this. I cannot say enough good things about our community's reaction. Yes, everybody's upset about the fact, but most of the people understand that we're trying to do everything we can, and GDOT's trying to do everything they can to remedy this situation. We had a truck driver who took $1 million piece of equipment and turned it into a battering ram, and we're going to have to pay the consequences for a while. But I just want to say thank you to the citizens, because they have been so understanding. Yes, we've got a few people who are frustrated and express that frustration. I've expressed my frustration, but I just want to tell you, so many people have said, well, thanks for the information. We'll just have to gut our way through it. And the reaction of the community has been phenomenal. So thank you for that reaction and understanding by our community. It just shows what a wonderful community we have and what great people we have here. Secondly, on a good note, we had a great festival this weekend, actually a couple. The Bluestone Festival, which is a resurrection of the old Sandy Springs Heritage Festival with some new twists, more music. So it's a music and arts festival. Everybody that I've heard from was just so excited about that. And then we topped it off with the wine festival on Sunday, and people just talked about what a marvelous weekend it was in Sandy Springs. And so after all the challenges of dealing with the bridge outage and all the other traffic issues, I think the city our residents deserved having a good weekend where we could have some fun. Last thing is got the opportunity. The U.S. Conference of Mayors is in Metro Atlanta this week, hosted by Mayor Dickens, and it's focused on a subject that Sandy Springs knows a lot about, P3. And I listened to a lot of mayors today talk about the challenges and how they're working, trying to get private sector investment into their communities. Well, I've got the opportunity to present to those mayors tomorrow morning about how we have used P3. I talked to them a little bit today about the origins of the city and how we had outsourced all of our services to begin with. And somebody asked, well, did they outsource the mayor? And I said, yes, they did. And we're still outsourcing the mayor here, but there's a lot of interest in how we've done it. I'm going to be able to present the story behind this facility as well as our plans for across the street tomorrow. And so it's a real opportunity to tell Sandy Springs' story to mayors from across the country, so I'm excited about that. That's my reports for tonight. Anybody else? Mr. Paulson and Dr. Kelly.
So I echo your comments about the Sandy Springs Festival. And just so that everybody knows, this had been put on historically by a private entity, the Heritage Foundation Group. So this is the first time that this has been put on as a city event. And I got to tell you, I was so proud of our city staff. They took this challenge on. I thought it went fantastic. Everybody did a good job. I'm sure they're all tired.
Anna Nicholas is a jewel.
Fantastic.
She does a tremendous job for all of our activities and events around here. And she was able to pull that off in about, 3 months?
Yep.
3 months or less.
So I want to acknowledge that our staff, including Anna, of course, did a fantastic job. I was quite tickled by the whole thing.
Okay, thanks. Dr. Kelly? Oh, I'm sorry. Mr. Giulio.
Being the resident historian here, I wanted to say, Gail and I came out on Saturday. We were sitting under the trees under there having lunch, and looking around there, I said to Gail, I said, this is exactly what we envisioned for Sandy Springs. Families, children running around, having a great time, enjoying the city, enjoying the facilities. And again, I would like to, congratulate Eden and her staff who pulled this thing off in such a short period of time, because this is what Sandy Springs has always wanted to be and always intended to be, was a family-oriented city. And it was just such a pleasure to see all those families and kids out there running around. And we got the cistern taken care of, so there was all that much more space for them to be out there. And I just wanted to acknowledge Eden's work, because I know there's a lot of work on the part of the city manager to get all this done, and they did an excellent job.
The praise goes to our team, Councilman, but we have an amazing group here. Thank you for that. I will be sure to share that with them.
Anybody else? All right. Any staff reports? All right. Now, then we need to move into executive session for the purposes of real estate litigation. Is there a motion so to do?
Mayor Paul.
Mr. Paulson.
I move that we suspend regular order, move into executive session for the purposes of real estate and litigation.
We have a motion by Mr. Paulson. Is there a second? Been moved by Mr. Paulson, seconded by Mr. DiGiulio, that we suspend regular order and move into executive session. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. The question's on executive session. All in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. We are in executive session. There'll be no further business tonight. We'll just simply come back in here after executive session and adjourn.